Hi, this is Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California, here with my brand new camera, notice the HD, woo! With a video for you today on how to do side crow. This is a video especially for Harlan, who doesn't believe beginners can do side crow. I believe otherwise. Let's get started. So, to do this pose, it sure helps to warm up your twist a little bit. Side crow happens to be a very big twist. So, we're going to start off in a chair pose and a chair twist. So we'll come into our chair. It helps to have one hand for leverage as you press your other armpit, or as close to your armpit as you can get. It might look more like an elbow, to the outer edge of that leg. The hands are going to sort of naturally reside somewhere around here, like your armpit. We're going to see if you can press down into that top arm to rotate your chest even more. And try to get the hands right to the middle of your chest. Okay? That's what we're looking for a nice big twist. You can do this on both sides. Once you get this, we're going to get started with our side crow today. Keep in mind, there's one big secret to side crow that you may not know, and I have a good feeling your teachers probably did not tell you this. Wait till the end, you're going to be wowed and amazed. Okay, so side crow. When I warm up my twist, I have to make sure that I can get as much of my arm to the outside of my opposite leg as possible. Okay, so you'll notice that when I twist, I'm way sort of like in the middle of my leg, not at my elbow. The mistake that people make is they don't twist enough, and then when they come in, their knee just slides off their arm because there's simply just not enough room to rest on. So you want to have like a nice twig, and not a twig, a twist and a big crisscross action. So my legs are facing that way. My chest is facing this way. That is the nature of a twist. If my shoulders face this way and my legs follow, I am no longer in a twist. So make sure that your twist is a twist. Knees one way, hands the other. See how my arm is bisecting the leg. Now, I'm going to start off by showing you the cheaty way, okay? Cheaty way is okay. You can do the cheaty way if you really, really want to, but here's how it goes. If you want to be a cheater, pumpkin eater, you take this opposite elbow and you stick it right into your hip. Okay, now if you do that, make sure your hands stay even. Because what I see a lot of times is people who like sort of twist backwards into it, and then this weird wonky pose, God, my neighbors love it when I make these videos. This weird wonky pose winds up with a knee on the floor pose. The good news, you're not very far from the floor, so don't stress out about falling. Okay, so we're going to start with the cheaty one. My elbow is on my hip. My other arm is crisscrossing my leg. And all I do is I lean forward and I make a shelf and boop. So I have like these chaturanga arms and I'm just resting on a shelf. Let me show you from another viewpoint. If my legs are facing forward this time and my body sideways, I take my cheaty elbow, stick it into my cheaty hip, look forward. Remember, you always want to look forward, because if I look to the side, I'm going to swing to the side. So look forward and boop, little shelf. Okay? This cheaty way is really, really easy. It's really just chaturanga arms with the clump of a human being hanging out on top of it, okay? It gets a little bit more technical when you get rid of the elbow cheat. So to get rid of the elbow cheat, now when I come into my pose, I'm crisscrossing with this arm. This arm is actually going to be free. It's not even touching. So that when I lean forward and wait for it, because the big yoga secret is coming at the end of the video of how to really, really, really just get that final touch for this pose. But as I lean forward, same thing, I make this shelf, but this time in my non-cheaty way, you can see this arm is not working at all. It's almost irrelevant to the pose. So that instead of resting on a cheaty arm, I'm being super duper honest, and that arm is just sort of there for a little bit of support, maybe a little bit of decoration, okay? So, here's the thing also. Everyone likes to look at their feet. So they look over here, and they come into it, and they fire pull out of it. Right, the whole concept again of a twist is knees one way, shoulders the other. So you gotta make sure you're turning in the other way. You gotta be resisting the pose, resisting the twist in order to find your balance. Likewise, make sure your gaze is always forward. As with all arm balances, we got something big going backwards. Liz called them legs. I need to compensate with something big going forward. Let's call it a chest. So you can see that as I come in, my legs are back and my body is forward in approximately equal proportion. People who like the floor, wind up on the floor. If your feet are too eager to be on the floor, you're gonna keep falling every time. You gotta get brave with this one. Sorry. Okay, now here's the big yoga secret to side crow. You ready for it? Side crow is not just crow done sideways, okay? I know the moniker is a little bit deceptive that way, but let me explain why it's not that. People think of this as they get their twist, with or without the cheat, and they think about it as lifting their feet behind them. Can you see how that is not the pose? Because the pose is actually feet swing out to the side. So let me explain the big yoga secret behind this pose. The secret is this. The feet have very little to do with this pose. The feet follow the pose, but the hips lead the pose. What does that mean? It means I start out with my hips parallel to the ceiling, or parallel to the floor, depending if you're a ceiling or a floor kind of a person. But in order to get into the pose, I'm going to have my hips parallel to you, assuming you're right in front of me. If you're over there, then I'm not going to be parallel to you, only if you're right there. Okay. So when I lean forward, watch the pivot of my hips. Hips are facing up. Now my feet don't lift behind me. All I do is take my back hip, boop, and rotate it on top of the front hip, which is now the bottom hip. You see that the legs are swinging significantly to the side, not straight back. In crow pose, and if you don't know crow pose, check out my crow pose video, we're thinking like a kickstand. Legs go straight back. Side crow, Again, I've got my big twist. My hands are flat, about shoulder's distance, as with all of my arm balances. I'm gonna make my chaturanga arms with my gaze forward, and then all I do is take my back hip and flip it on top of the bottom hip. Again, this other elbow, not doing much at all. Ta-da! I love this pose. It's a very accessible pose, and even if you're not a yogi pro, you can do this one too. Let me show you a cool transition that you can do as well. I'm gonna try not to run into the wall on this one, so. Side crow feeds really, really nicely into your kundaliniasanas, whatever that is, right? Okay, so knees to the side. I come into my side crow. Remember, I'm just gonna flip that hip. I'm not gonna move the feet backwards. They're gonna swing to the side with the rest of my body. Side crow. Dvipada Kundaliniasana. Ekapada Kundaliniasana number 1. Whoops. And Ekapada Kundaliniasana number 2. How's that for fun and fabulous? Instruction on that one is going to have to be saved for a later day. This is Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California, wishing you an awesome day.